Open a Bud Light and relax already. Even the vice president took a break from humping his ottoman to complain about not just me, you.
On Jimmy Kimmel's television program and on The Daily Show this week, you have audiences outright cheering, seeing the images of Teslas on fire across the country. And I saw that and I thought, man, that really is a sign of how much the left has conditioned people to think that that's acceptable.
JD Vance really seemed to think going after Jimmy Kimmel was going to earn him easy points with the MAGA crowd, but honestly, it just turned into another awkward public moment that made Trump's inner circle look way more defensive than confident. The whole thing started after Kimmel kept roasting Vance on live TV, and it wasn't just the usual late-night jokes about his image or that stiff, awkward vibe people always point out. Kimmel was actually digging into his record too, and that clearly hit a nerve because instead of laughing it off or ignoring it, the reaction just felt tense and overly emotional, like they were scrambling to push back against every joke that landed.
And today, Donald Trump signed an executive order to dismantle the Department of Education. I know it sounds like a joke, but it's not. Trump famously said he loves the poorly educated, and now we will have so many more people to love. Trump signed the order during an event at the White House. They invited a group of children to attend. They're like, hey, kids, who hates school? And they're like, well, we do. And they said, well, good news, it's over.
Kimmel reminded everyone that JD Vance used to call Trump America's Hitler, said Trumpism was cultural poison, and openly warned conservatives that Trump was dangerous. But the moment real political power was on the table, Vance completely changed. Almost overnight, he went from being one of Trump's loudest critics to acting like his most loyal defender, and honestly, Kimmel didn't even need to exaggerate anything to make the point land. Vance's own old interviews did all the work for him. Every clip made him look less like someone standing on principle and more like someone willing to throw away everything he once believed just to stay close to power. And that's really what seemed to bother him the most, because comedians have a way of taking your own words and putting them right back in front of millions of people in seconds. And when that happens, there's really nowhere left to hide.
They covered a wide range of subjects, including his son Barron.
You talked the other day about how music was your aptitude as a child. But is Barron's aptitude, in your view, business or politics?
Maybe technology. He can look at a computer. I try turning off his car, turn it off. I turn off his laptop. I said, oh, good. And I go back 5 minutes later, he's got his laptop. I said, how'd you do that? None of your business, Dad. No, he's got an unbelievable aptitude in technology.
Oh, yeah.
Then things got even worse when Kimmel brought up one of the most controversial parts of Vance's campaign, the whole Springfield migrant rumor. Even after local officials and reporters completely debunked the story about Haitian migrants stealing and eating pets, Vance kept pushing it anyway, because outrage keeps people talking and keeps headlines moving. Kimmel really leaned into how reckless that was, showing viewers exactly how misinformation spreads when politicians stop caring about what's true and start focusing more on attention, reactions, and keeping themselves in the spotlight.
Vice President Maybelline was making the rounds, attempting to defend his boss and the chairman of the FCC with a new fairy tale even a 5-year-old wouldn't believe.
And instead of actually responding to the criticism, Vance tried changing the conversation by saying Kimmel's show had low ratings and deserved to be cancelled. But that argument fell apart almost immediately because the controversy actually brought Kimmel even more viewers. The more MAGA figures complained about him, the more attention they handed him, and it turned into a perfect example of politicians accidentally making their critics even louder. At the same time, Trump's administration was already taking heat over moves to dismantle the Department of Education, with critics warning it would weaken public schools and create chaos across different states. Kimmel mocked the whole thing by pointing out the irony that Trump always talks about loving the poorly educated, and now his administration seemed determined to create even more of them. That joke spread everywhere because a lot of people felt there was real truth behind it. Then the Tesla protests started exploding across the country, with anger toward Elon Musk growing after mass layoffs and his political involvement sparked demonstrations and vandalism targeting Tesla properties. MAGA personalities instantly rushed to defend Musk, suddenly acting like Tesla was some untouchable American symbol under attack. The same people who used to mock protests were now furious because the protests were aimed at someone they politically supported, and Kimmel went straight at that hypocrisy, calling out how fast the outrage standards changed depending on who the target was. Meanwhile, while Fox News hosts and conservative influencers kept yelling about left-wing extremism, a lot of Americans seemed more focused on why billionaires and politicians always looked more protected than regular workers losing their jobs. Through all of this, JD Vance kept jumping from podcast to podcast and interview to interview trying to defend Trump, Musk, and the administration, But every appearance seemed to backfire even more because the more he talked, the more people remembered the old JD Vance, the version of him that once warned the country about Trump before deciding loyalty mattered more than honesty. And honestly, that's why Jimmy Kimmel's jokes hit so hard. They didn't just feel like jokes. They felt like reminders that the internet never forgets, old clips never disappear, and when a politician completely reinvents themselves for power, eventually someone is going to put the past and present side by side for the whole country to see.